Lingportal Online School presents
Verbs in the exciting world of English grammar. Do you want to know where all the actions live in a sentence? Verbs. Verbs are words that show actions, whether they are outside of us, run, jump, work, etc., or inside, love, think, consider, etc. Without verbs, you can't express anything. What are verbs? In English grammar, a verb is the part of the speech which denotes an action, both physical or mental, or state/condition of a person or a thing, and answers the question, what to do with a person/object. Generally, verbs can be treated as two different parts. Lexical verbs, for example, play, work, think. Auxiliary verbs, such as be, have. Verbs are very important. Along with nouns, they are the main part of a sentence or phrase, expressing the key idea of what is happening. Without verbs, it is impossible to communicate our thoughts coherently. How do you identify verbs in sentences? Location is a clue. Verbs almost always come after a noun or pronoun. My sister came to me yesterday. Come implies the action with the following meaning: to move or travel in particular direction. He wants to play for the team. There are two actions in this sentence. Want, that means to wish something. Play specifies what exactly he wants. In English, every sentence must contain a verb, even a sentence of only one word. In this case, the single word would be a verb. For example, an infinitive like walk or stop. Please note, if it's an informal context, newspaper headline advert, sign, or exclamation, it might not contain a verb. For example, what a horrible day. The more the merrier. Therefore, the more verbs we know, the easier it is to express our thoughts. Forms of the verbs. Main lexical verbs have several forms in English grammar. In this topic, we will focus on the base, past, and past participle forms. The base or root form is the simplest form that is listed in the dictionary. For example, play, run, keep, do, have. The base form appears in the present tense, except the third person singular. The base form of the verb, preceded by the infinitive marker to, is called the infinitive, which is usually referred to as the present infinitive. For example, know, base form to know, infinitive. Note, infinitives never have es, ed, or ing ending. Past form refers to finished actions or events, or a past state of being, and is used in past simple. For example, he lived in Dublin. He knew about it. Past participle denotes that an action was started and completed in the past. The past participle is used in perfect forms. For example, he has finished his work. Present perfect tense. I had already seen this film. Past perfect tense. Have you noticed that some verbs form the past and past participle by adding ed/d, but some verbs don't? Types of verbs. Please note that each type of verb is a very large grammar topic, so while in this lesson I will give you general information, a detailed description of each specific type can be found via the provided links. Regular and irregular verbs. All English verbs can form the past and past participle forms, but they do so in different ways. Some verbs form the past and past participle according to the rule, adding ed/d to the base form, and are called irregular verbs. In English, the ed ending can be pronounced in three different ways, depending on the last sound of the base verb. For example, t, talk, talked. D, arrive, arrived.
id,
Attend, attended. Some verbs don't form the past and past participle according to the rules and are called irregular verbs. Please note, the only way to learn irregular verbs is to memorize them. Irregular verbs training courses can be found via this link. Stative and action verbs. The majority of verbs describe a physical action or activity. Consequently, they are called action verbs. For example, walk, swim, sing, say. Verbs that describe a subject's state or feeling are called stative verbs. Examples are the following: know, believe, want, love. More detailed explanations can be found via link. Auxiliary helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs, often referred to as helping verbs, play a crucial role in English grammar. They work alongside main verbs to form various tenses, moods, and voices in sentences. The primary auxiliary verbs in English are be, have, and do, which can be conjugated in various forms to match the subject and tense of the sentence. More detailed explanations can be found via link. Modal verbs. Modal verbs express a speaker's attitude towards an action, indicated by a main verb such as ability, necessity, obligation, duty, advice, etc. Modal verbs are not used as a separate part of the sentence, but only in combination with another verb. For example, I cannot ride a bicycle. May I ask a question? More detailed explanations can be found via link. Phrasal verbs. A phrasal verb is a compound verb phrase that contains two or more words and acts as an individual verb. For example, get rid of something. That means to remove something that you don't want any longer. My husband can't wait to get rid of that old furniture. The important thing to remember about phrasal verbs is that they act as a single verb, so you can still use them or other verbs and prepositions. However, you can conjugate a phrasal verb. You only conjugate the part of the phrase that's actually a verb, like get. More detailed explanations can be found via the link. Prepositional verbs. A prepositional verb is an idiomatic expression that combines a verb and a preposition to make a new verb with a distinct meaning. Some examples of prepositional verbs in English are care for, approve of, add to, result in, count on, and deal with. More detailed explanations can be found via link. Active or passive voice. Transitive verbs have both active and passive forms. In the active voice, the subject is performing an action. For example, the man is eating a hamburger. The subject, man, performs an action, eating. The passive voice focuses on the object that receives an action. Look at the same sentence. A hamburger is being eaten by a man. The object, hamburger, receives an action, eating, that is done by a man. Transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs require a direct object to express complete idea. Without a direct object, a sentence would leave listeners confused. Compare, he sent a message yesterday. He sent yesterday. It makes no sense. Sent is example of transitive verb that has a meaning with the direct object message. Intransitive verbs do not use a direct object. One example of intransitive verbs in the following. The sun rises in the east every morning. Rises is the example of an intransitive verb that doesn't use a direct object. Please note, some verbs can be both transitive and intransitive. For example, he opened the door, transitive. The door opened soundlessly. Verbs are essential to the structure of meaning of English sentences. This exploration of verbs provides you with a solid grammatical foundation, paving the way for more advanced language studies and enhanced overall proficiency in English. Mastering verbs is essential for clear and effective communication in English. Overall, mastering verbs is fundamental to achieving fluency and accuracy in English.